Dad, why is my bike chain squeaky?
Hi, this is Josh from Still Ride Bike Shop, and today we're going to talk about lubricating your chain. There's a lot of information out there and different products for who has the best chain lube and what chain lube works best, but the reality is that for 90% of people who ride bikes, as long as they're doing it, that's better than nothing. That being said, some people also do a lot of things that is worse than doing nothing. So we're going to kind of talk about that and how to properly lubricate your chain and what to use. So first and foremost, how do you know when to lubricate your chain? So generally, the recommendation with most lube manufacturers is somewhere in the 300 to 400, maybe 500 mile range. But I always say, if it sounds like there's birds chirping in the back of your wheel, probably means you need to lubricate your chain. If you ride in a pretty severe downpour, you probably need to lubricate your chain. And generally, for a lot of people, at least once a year, maybe a little bit more than that. But again, if you're kind of doing something, it's better than nothing. The real question is like, why do you lubricate your chain? So what we're trying to do is lubricate the inside of the chain. Basically, the way a chain works is there's a pin connecting an inner and an outer link, and those pins move against each other over and over and over again, creating a bigger hole in the links and making the chain effectively stretch. That's what we're trying to avoid, is the chain stretching. And the reason for that is that the cassette and the chain rings up here are designed for a very specific distance. And as that pins start to get further and further apart, it starts to wear away at that cassette and those chain rings, which are expensive parts to replace eventually down the road. So if you can keep that chain as lubed as possible and then eventually replace it as needed, it's going to make everything last a lot longer. So to make that chain last as long as possible, we're going to lubricate those joints so that those holes don't get bigger, or at least slower, so that happens slower. So I see a lot of different things come into the shop. Almost always you can tell when someone has put WD-40 on a chain. That's something you don't want to use. A WD-40 actually does the opposite of what you want a good chain lubricant to do. Some people use it for cleaning, and in some cases that works, but for most people, keeping WD-40 away from your bike is a good idea. They do make bike products, but that's kind of a different story. Generally, if a product says chain lube on it or bicycle chain lubricant, it's going to be okay. There are a lot of different things out there. I generally in the shop use this Park Tool, the CL 1.2 chain lube. It's a good all-around lubricant. There are a lot out there that work. I would say that the biggest thing is applying it appropriately is more important than anything. There might be some people who disagree with me there. But generally what we're trying to do is lubricate the inside of the chain. So the best way to do it, and I really like having a drip bottle like this. There are some other ways to do it, like spray bottles and stuff, but drip bottles work best for me. What we try to do is get the drips inside the chain. So we're going to kind of run through, and you want to get it at least one little drop into every single chain link on the inside. And make sure you go all the way around once. Sometimes you can use your, if you have a master link in your chain, to know where to start. Otherwise, with like the Park Tool lube, I can kind of see it on there. And then you want to give it some time to work itself into the chain, because again, we're trying to lubricate the inside of the chain. And with that, anything you see on the outside of the chain, all that's doing is collecting dirt, right? And so we want to do our best to kind of keep the outside of the chain dry lubricant, not 100% dry, but you don't want to have excess on there, because if it's attracting dirt, it's actually going to be working against you. If it lets dirt work into those chain links, that's going to kind of work like a grinding thing. That's going to that chain stretch that we're trying to avoid. So after applying the chain lube, we're going to take a rag or a paper towel or a shop towel and just remove the excess from the outside. And that's it. It's best to lubricate your chain the night before a ride or right after a ride. If you lube your chain and then go out on a ride right away, there's a really good chance that it's just kind of fly off. Not to say that you can't, but it's just best to let that lubricant give you some time to like really work itself into the crevices of the chain and then harden in there. So that's the very basics of chain lubrication. There you can find lots more details about different types of chain lube, chain waxing, things like that. But for, I'd say 99% of people, just doing this properly every once in a while and not over lubricating is going to make your bike last a lot longer and ultimately save you some money.